Hello and welcome back to the Evolution of Medicine News Videocast. Each week we wrap up the news that is interesting to practitioners and our practitioner community. Warm welcome back, my co-host. It's Gabe Hoffman. Welcome, Gabe.
Hey, James. Happy to be here.
It's another interesting week in the news. We are very grateful to our ongoing sponsor for these sessions. It's Holistic Nutrition Lab. They are Andre Nakayama, as some of you know, has spoken a number of times on our functional forum and is a great educator. She has her digestive intensive programming about to begin. So if you go to goevomed.com/HNL, you can find out more about that program. It's going to be launching in the next couple of weeks here. So get in touch with her. Gabe, time to get into the news. One thing I just wanted to share before we get into the news is that this is the first week that all of the news on the show has been generated by our community, which is what we wanted. So it only took us 4 weeks. Pretty exciting.
Yeah, feeling really good about that. You know, it's fun doing the news. We got a weekly show. It's starting to get some momentum.
Yeah, so let's start on the first week. I don't know if you remember this, listeners, but we spoke to you about Martin Shkreli, the CEO of a pharmaceutical company who basically was defrauding the general public for a long time, and that was fine. And then he started defrauding hedge fund managers, and that wasn't so fine. He got put in prison. And we spoke to you about the Wu-Tang Clan and them taking back his album. But there was this article that came out this week that I thought was really interesting. And it said, not just Shkreli, another pharma giant hikes drug prices. Pfizer kicked off New Year by quietly jacking up the costs of over 100 drugs. So this is, pretty big news. It shows that Martin Shkreli was not really, he wasn't really a one-off lone wolf. This is more of a systemic problem. What are your thoughts?
Well, look, I mean, are they, why are they raising prices? Are they having financial issues? How does this affect the insurance companies and how they're going to focus on integrative and preventative medicine? How does this make, co-pays and doctors versus the integrative doctor versus the conventional doctor? So, price shifts in the marketplace have massive impacts, and this would seem to be one that's moving in our favor. Do you agree? Or?
Well, I think it's moving in our favor. According to this, the analysts reported that U.S. prices were raised on a total of 105 Pfizer drugs, and the outlet continued that no price reductions were reported. Obviously, you're in a very strong position of power when you're a pharmaceutical company because you're making products that people depend on for their health. But with that great power comes great responsibility, and I think this is pretty irresponsible. But I think it's actually going to backfire, and that's why I'm actually excited about this news. I think it's good news because what we are seeing more and more in my world is, in our world, is that what's really important here actually in the future of medicine is the payers, because the money is going to run out. And whatever payer you're looking for, whether it's a business or a person or a insurance company, they actually, want to reduce costs, particularly businesses. And I see some amazing opportunities arriving for functional integrated medicine doctors who can reverse the types of conditions, without drugs that people are needing drugs for, because it's a very interesting proposition to the people who actually have to pay for it. And so I think, this is almost like the last hurrah of pharma, where they're just trying to suck as much money out of the system as possible before we take over and they become somewhat obsolete.
Yeah, the writing seems to be on the wall. So it is. It's interesting to monitor this as maybe a trend rather than just a anomaly.
It's definitely a trend, and there has also been, public health advocates have been warning that a mega free trade deal that are currently under negotiation, you probably heard of the Trans-Pacific Partnership or the TPP, yeah. This would actually spike drug prices even more, even beyond U.S. borders, because now U.S. pharmaceutical companies would have more rights in these other countries. So, it is a trend. I think it's just greed. There's no responsibility, and I think it's going to backfire.
Well, it sounds good.
Yeah, we'll see. So the next thing that we were sent, I thought was very interesting, was from Rob Wolf. Now, Rob Wolf is someone that you may know if you're in the paleo world. He is doing some pretty interesting things in Nevada, and we're going to be reporting on that a bit later in the year. But there was a very interesting back and forth this week about the news that General Mills has acquired the Epic Bar. Now, the Epic Bar is a great supporter of the ancestral health community, just been acquired by General Mills, which is kind of a behemoth in this space. And what was really interesting was not even necessarily this article. Rob in the article argues that this is a good thing that General Mills is acquiring it, but a lot of people were thinking this is a bad thing.
Right.
Gabe, what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's a really interesting dialogue, and his stance is not the typical stance you would hear. So the Epic Bar is a paleo bar that actually they found a way to put meat into a paleo bar. It's a bar I've eaten. It's good, and so that company is being purchased by one of these monstrous food General Mills, and here's Rob Wolf, supporter of the movement, saying this is good news. Now, his point is that this is the direction that all these companies have to go in because the writing is on the wall, just like we said about pharmaceuticals. He's saying that sustainability and doing the right thing is what's going to be profitable, and all these companies care about is profit. Now, if you go to the comments section, and this is a small excerpt, but if you go down here, you'll see an interesting conversation where people are commenting and saying, I don't feel this is good. And the actual owners of the company are responding and saying, listen, if our integrity changes, you can come to Austin and punch me in the stomach, is what one of the owners said. And, we're doing this to inspire and guide General Mills to continue making efforts to produce nourishing foods. In another comment, he explains how General Mills purchased Annie's Organic brand, and it actually allowed them to increase their supply, and they were allowed to continue to promote non-GMO positioning. So it's an interesting question. I would love to hear people's opinions on it, and I would love to hear your opinion on it, James. But the idea here is this is overall good news because someone's taking a risk that the larger companies are going to start to move in this direction because of profitability. I think we're starting to see also in another industry where the insurance companies are, encouraging preventative healthcare because it saves them money. So when the bottom line is affected, we may see more conscious business occur even at a high level. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I think so. And, it is interesting. The comments are super interesting. And I have to say, we really appreciate anyone who's listening to comment on our stuff. We had a record number of comments on the Functional Forum in January, and it was really cool seeing how people, feel about your content. So if you have thoughts about this issue or anything else that we've mentioned, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. It's very interesting to see the back and forth. I think when anything goes mainstream, it has to be up leveled in terms of the technology. But what you are seeing more and more, I have to say nowadays, is companies acting independently. I've read about how Instagram was acquired by Facebook, and everyone thought they would be the same, and pretty much they're pretty separate. Instagram and Facebook, they're operated independently. Instagram gets a lot of benefits of being part of the Facebook family, but it didn't have to suddenly compromise what it was doing or other things. And I think that you're going to see more and more of that. I mean, I think at one point Chipotle was owned by McDonald's. I don't think that's the case anymore. So there's a lot of things that own different things, and it doesn't necessarily mean just because Epic's owned by General Mills, I don't think it's actually going to, straight away change the way that Epic bars are being produced in Austin. But what it might do is change the ability for Epic bars to be in, much larger distribution that General Mills can affect with their power and distribution. So, I think we can be quick to judge these kind of things, but what is a fact is that paleo concepts and these kind of concepts are coming into the mainstream, and I can't help but think that there's anything bad about that in an overall way. It shows that, again, more and more people, consumers, are are not just believing the hype and buying whatever's in front of them. They're actually searching out good quality products.
Well, I remember, it reminds me of when I was at Integrative Nutrition, and Joshua Rosenthal, who created that school and is a brilliant guy and was a leader, was encouraging everyone to go to McDonald's and buy salads and healthy food items that they were offering. And it was like a revolt in the school. Everyone was so upset when he said it. And he said that his point was, we want to encourage this type of behavior, not, discourage it, that it's not as cut and dry as people being evil and to avoid them. And then in the comment section here, I think it's interesting. I mean, it's not just about General Mills, purchasing a company. It's that there have been a history of companies dissolving, like buying smaller companies and dissolving them because they were competition. And very simply, the owner of Epic, his response to that is he believes business as usual is changing. And I feel optimistic about the future. So I don't know for sure that this is going to work out how we would all like it to, but I do believe that things are going to work out in the long run, that we are moving in the right direction. And so business as usual, I would expect to change at some point, and hopefully this is it. The beginning, at least.
Absolutely, yeah, we're seeing that happening. Now, Gabe, the third thing I wanted to get to here was something we talked a few weeks ago about Flint, Michigan, and now we're seeing that the Detroit public school teachers are doing these things called a sick out. What's a sick out?
Yeah, so a sick out is when all these teachers called in sick simultaneously. They coordinated it, and so they had to shut down the schools. So there were over 60 schools in Detroit that were closed today. And this is a protest to the poor conditions in the classroom. So it was referred to as toxic conditions, and I'm sure more of this information will be coming out. So we'll stay on top of it. But the teachers felt, the infrastructure of the schools are falling apart. There are mold problems. There are too many students in the class per teacher, and it's a failing system. So the way that they're rallying against it is to all stay home sick and to make people take notice. It's different than the last story we reported, although it's in a similar area of the country where Flint, Michigan was literally poisoning people. And you see a lot of articles now about that story. And here's another area. And the reason it's significant for our population is we're talking about toxicity. We're talking about mold. We're talking about people's health being a trigger for massive change politically and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's interesting. What it does make me think of, though, is I've thought about this a lot. When you're at school and, you're sick and you don't have to go to school. And we've talked about this before. That always sets up the fact that, hey, there's like a secondary gain to being sick, and it's you get to miss out on school and how much sickness causes of that. It's not completely related to what we're talking about, but it always makes me think of that.
Yeah, well, look, everyone likes a home day as long as you're not feeling too sick. And I guess it's, what's the mayor's name in this article here? So he's going and touring all the schools in this week, and so now he has to do something. So I will say, so far so good. They addressed it, and here he is, Mayor Mike Dugan. So he says he's going to tour all the schools Tuesday and assess the condition of the buildings. He wasn't going to, I would say that was a new addition to his schedule, right? Like Monday, he probably didn't have in his schedule tour all the buildings. But all of a sudden, so the teachers don't show up and be like, hey, it's disgusting in these schools and people are getting sick. All of a sudden, Mayor Dugan has to come out and do something about it. So I don't know. So far, so good.
Yeah, well, look, a lot of people are finding out about mold being a trigger for illness and all the kind of things that has not been, not been out there that much. So I think this is a good situation in terms of pushing people in the direction of the integrative and functional practitioner community, health coaches, and all that world.
And this is a coordinated effort through teachers. And how are they coordinating it? I wonder if it's through social media. It's probably not just through all of them calling each other on the phone, right? So again, technology is empowering us to organize ourselves and to create community. So here's a community of teachers coming together and having an impact in the best way they could. Like some of the quotes in this article, I think it's the mayor says, or I think it was the mayor when I read the article where he says like, I realize they want us to look at the schools, but they should really be thinking about the students and being there to teach. But the reality is if they just kept showing up to teach, people could put this off forever. So now in a coordinated effort, it gets attention and it gets it now. And I think that's great.
Absolutely. So what will we see from patients? If you don't like high drug prices and, you want to be healthy, what's it going to take for patients to really stand up and, in en masse reject the current medical system with all its flaws and, look for something different? That's certainly something that we're interested in. Anything else before we wrap up today? Obviously, saddest moment of the week was the passing of Sir David.
Oh yeah, that was big news. And he actually, I don't know if you saw, but people didn't know he was sick, and he recorded this album and barely was alive. Maybe he kept himself alive because he passed away like 2 days after it was released on his birthday. And there's some really poignant music, and from the music video I saw, it was him in a hospital bed and really health and medicine related. So kind of interesting stuff going on. And he had a huge impact on the whole culture. So
absolutely. Well, look, thanks so much for tuning in. This has been the Evolution of Medicine video newscast. As ever, we love getting your news information, and so you can send it to news@goevomed.com. We're doing what Gabe was talking with the teachers. We're trying to cajole and organize this practitioner community into the force that it really should be to shape the future of medicine. And so, that's one of the reasons why we're bringing the news, bringing the community together. Please share this with a colleague or another practitioner if you found this interesting or valuable. Thanks again to our sponsor, Andrea Nakayama, and the Holistic Nutrition Lab. We are looking to this year create a big network of coaches capable of dealing with chronic and autoimmune diseases. Part of the reason being is because we know that payers want that. Payers are looking for ways to solve these problems. Businesses realize that 80% of their healthcare costs are going to the 2% of people that have autoimmune disease and diabetes and cancer. This is the solution that we're rallying around. And so tools like Holistic Nutrition Lab are completely invaluable for that. Thanks so much for listening. It is January 16th. This is the Evolution of Medicine News Videocast. I'm your host, James Maskell. I'm here with my co-founder, Gabe Hoffman, and we'll see you next time.